ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Retro Warriors episode 480. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Saturn, we're only 20 episodes from episode 500.
That's bizarre.
I mean, what the
Which means we're only 40 episodes from having done this for 10 years.
I would like to know, there's got to be at least one person out there that has listened since the beginning. And has your level of sanity declined equally with ours in the intervening 480 episodes?
Yeah.
Please write in and let us know. Send a homing pigeon or something.
I wonder if you sent one of these recent episodes to younger us that was starting this show, if we'd be like, God, what happened to us? We have to stop right now.
What? Yeah, what the fuck, man? I didn't get into podcasting for this shit. Gross. They just open every show on an utter tangent every time. Holy shit, man. Talk about cute-em-ups already.
And in fairness, we pretty much started every show on a tangent 10 years ago.
I remember, I don't think this show ever had it, but our old shows had cold opens.
Yep.
And I loved cold opens. They were so fun.
Well, we basically do that with the pre-show now.
Right, it's just a 20-minute cold open. You get a whole fucking stand-up set worth of material before we even start the show.
If somebody played our pre-shows as a stand-up set, they would get booed off the stage.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I just meant length of material, not quality of material.
Okay. Yeah.
So, there's your ad for our Patreon. If you want 14 minutes of us talk, what do we talk about?
Quality.
Of us talking about EVs and I don't remember. There was other things in there somewhere.
Trucks.
And
cowboy boots.
And there you go. You can listen to that. And me dressing as a pirate.
Yar.
My week. I've been playing some of that there Counter-Strike 2. It's just kind of my go-to. Do what?
Is that a new game?
The second one it's newish. I don't play it online. I know that it is primarily an online multiplayer shooter, but everyone else online shoots me.
Oh,
and then I don't get to shoot anybody because I've already been shot, and it's not fair. So I play offline with bots. It's kind of just my every now and then I get in the mood for the shooty gun game. And it's just a real quick and easy one to get in there and run around and shoot some machine guns at bad guys and just have fun. And so I've been kind of doing 10 minutes a day of that. The other day, someone on my
game.
Yeah.
I thought that was. I was thinking of Team Fortress 2 is the old one.
Oh yeah, Team Fortress 2 is old. Yeah. The other day, someone on my friends list who I didn't recognize changed their name to my nickname on Steam and then invited me to play CS2 with them while I was playing.
That's weird.
And I was like, I'm not going to do that because you're going to shoot me or you're going to drag me into a lobby where other people will shoot me. And when I play against the bots, I shoot them every time. Yeah. And then when they do shoot me, it lets me first person view whatever a bot is seeing, and I can press a button and just take over control of that bot, and then keep shooting people. And so that's been kind of my quick fix shooty gun game.
Did you figure out who it was that stole your name?
No, I looked at their profile and I was like, I don't know who the fuck this is. It said they live in Bucharest, and I was like, I don't know who this is.
Somebody's account got hacked.
I thought that, but then I was like, what a weird bot to invite me to a game of CS2.
Right.
It's very strange. I'm also playing one of our game club games for this month is Guardian Legends, so I've been playing that on my God, I hate the name of this fucking thing, on my Anbernic RG35XX SP.
Okay.
And enjoying that. Still a stellar game.
Nice.
I finally got all my shaders and overlays and everything set up the way I like them, so it looks good, plays good, and still is good. And I've been greatly enjoying that. I have noticed, because Guardian Legend is a pretty fast-paced action game, a little bit of fatigue from the D-pad and buttons in the longer play sessions. Not enough where I'm like, I need to stop playing, this is hurting me, but just enough where the kind of extra clicky, sort of sharp-edged controls, I'm like, this is a little it's getting a little fatiguing,
Yeah.
just kind of dragging my thumbs around on the buttons. So I did want to mention that. Again, not so much that I'm like, I want to stop, but just enough that I was like, yeah, I wish these were a little rounder,
Right. It's fair.
And I'm sure I mentioned it on the show, but it occurred to me that I might not have. But I've had them for like a month and a half now. I'm positive I did, but just in case I didn't, I've been playing with the Tamagotchi Connections, the newest Tamagotchi release, and they're so good, Saturn.
Yeah.
Oh man, they
poop?
They poop, and they play, and they can bang each other and have kids.
Yeah.
And if you don't have two of them, so that they can bang and have a baby, then you can.
They get depressed.
No, the matchmaker comes by and assigns them a partner to have a baby with.
That seems wrong.
No, it's okay in Tamatown.
Okay.
So it's allowed. Yeah. Presumably
it's not allowed in real life. Nobody's going to come assign you a partner. That would.
I don't. Maybe if you wait long enough. I don't know. I don't know how it works, man.
I've been waiting for a while, man.
Look, I don't know. I don't know. But I was just thinking about it today, and I was like, I don't know if I'm sure I mentioned them on the show, but if I didn't, man, they're really good. There are some really good virtual.
You might have
pets.
mentioned them briefly when you got them.
I feel like I did. They still continue to be very good virtual pets.
Nice,
and I'm enjoying them immensely.
Nice.
And what
and
you
they
can
still
do,
poop.
you can wait till they get really old, and then they turn into really creepy old versions of themselves, and then you can make them have a baby, and they have a baby that looks like a middle-aged man with a mustache when he comes out, and it's good.
That's how biology works.
It's
Justin.
a good, yeah. When old people have a baby, it comes out old. That's just good science.
Babies are always half your age. That's just how it works.
Anyway, that's all I've been up to. What have you been playing?
So I got a new phone.
Oh, what'd you get?
I got the Pixel 9.
Ah,
The standard. I did not go for the Pro this time.
You didn't get the professional Pixel 9?
I did also not get the XL this time. So this is the standard size Pixel 9 versus I had the Pixel 6 Pro, which was the large one.
Yes.
And the screen is like 0.3 inches smaller than my old one.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I don't see how that's smaller. That's the same. That's the same size. And the bezels are slightly smaller on this, so it feels like the same size. It is slightly easier to hold with one hand than my old one is.
Yeah.
The camera bump bezel on the back is fucking enormous. It is.
They're getting ridiculous, right?
It's monstrously large.
At this point, just make the fucking phone thicker and give me more battery. Look, who the fuck is who out there is like, yeah, I'd rather have a 2-inch camera bump than more battery.
Yeah,
like, what?
right?
Why?
It's just it's a silly camera bump. It is a glass back phone, which I've not had one of those myself before.
Mm-hmm.
So it is in a case 100% of the time because I'm terrified of breaking the back now. But it's nice. It's a nice phone. Works well. I got it for basically free after trade-ins and shit.
Yeah.
And as part of it, I changed my carrier so that I could get away from AT&T because their garbage company made it garbage.
I don't know why I thought you were on Google Fi.
I had been for a long time, but I switched to AT&T because they had a promotion through my old employer to give you a discount.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you know what? I will try it because at the time I was trying to see if I could de-Google my life.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I remember
real hard.
this. Yeah.
And so I had jumped around a bunch of carriers, and I ended up on AT&T because I got a discount through my old employer. And after my old employer laid us off, and also after some of the promotional periods ended, my after discount rate was almost $200 a month, and I was like, I don't want this anymore.
Oh my God. I'm paying for 3 lines. I'm not remotely near that. I'm paying like $90 a month.
Yeah. So now I am down to around $50 a month, give or take. I'm back to Google Fi because that's where I started from.
Uh-huh.
And when I switched back over, I also had to get a data-only SIM for my laptop so that I could use it at work. And I checked before I switched because I'm doing the Unlimited Plus plan with Google Fi, which gives me 50 gigs of internet at full speed and then however many gigs I want after that, but slowed down to 2G speed, so basically dial-up.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to see how much data I was using first. So I checked my last several AT&T bills to see how much data I was using between both my phone and my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 35 to 40 gigs a month.
Oof.
So I was like, I was like, I can sneak in under that 50 gigs and it'll be fine. So it's fine. And the second day that I had Google Fi, I was up to 30 gigs. And I'm like, I don't know how all of this happened. Either AT&T was lying to me or Google Fi is lying to me,
someone's
or something
fucked up.
broke.
Yeah.
So now I'm in paranoid data watching mode.
Oh, God.
Until the end of the month.
Data rationing.
Right.
I think it's just preparing us for the water rationing we're all going to have to do in about 10 years. So,
Right.
That's what these data caps are for. It's a soft training program.
Yeah. Now the only like major notable upgrade with the Pixel 9, the main reason I got it was because their Pixel 6 hits end of life within the next year. And the Pixel 9 has 8 years of life on it. So now that I have the Pixel 9, I don't need to upgrade my phone for 8 years, assuming it doesn't break or whatever. But the big selling point that Google thinks that people should buy the phone for is its built-in AI features. You see, it has an AI-specific chipset in it.
Yeah,
so
my new phone has this fucking shit too.
It does all your AI processing on the phone itself instead of going to the internet's first. It still needs the internet to do
which
the AI
makes
processing.
no goddamn. What is the chip doing?
Yeah, I don't know. But so because of it, they give you a free trial of Gemini, your AI assistant.
Oh my God. So I get that, and I also get Samsung wanting me to do their thing, and I keep declining both of them, and they're like, please try Gemini.
I decided I would try it just to see what it was like.
So does it replace Google Assistant?
It does, poorly.
Okay.
So first of all, I've got the 1 month free trial is what comes with this phone, and it's almost over, and I'm going to cancel it because it's useless. Everything that I've tried to get it to do, it has been worse than Google Assistant.
Yeah.
I tried to ask it if it would write our show notes for the last episode for Warren Spector. And the first response it gave was, "I'm sorry, I can't comment on current political events." And I'm like, "What?
Did Warren Spector say something, or what happened?"
I think it thought I meant Elizabeth Warren.
Oh yeah, no, not
which
right.
is not the same at all.
No, not even really close.
So I had to ask it multiple times, and then it finally wrote me some show notes that started with the sentence, "Welcome back, retro gamers." And I was like, no, Google, that's incorrect.
I did forget that after all the jokes about AI in the Discord, I was going to intro the show with "Welcome back, retro gamers." And I forgot. Damn.
It was such garbage. Like the whole, like all the notes, like it clearly tried to pull from the same news and information sources that I try to pull from, but it was like hallucinating real bad. At one point, it was like, and then when he helped create the Sega Saturn, I'm like, no, sir, go back, Google. None of this is right. So I've
At
given
what
up
point
on
are these AI engines going to be getting their information from other AI generated results and basically giving us garbled copy of a copy of a copy data?
I'm not convinced they aren't already.
That's got to be an issue, right?
Right, so I am not sold on Gemini, my AI assistant.
Yeah,
and I'm going to go back to my old shitty AI assistant that I didn't use and not use it. But anyway, in better news, I started playing the new Castlevania collection, the Dominus collection.
I keep meaning to get around to that. How is it?
It's solid. It's a good collection as far as DS emulation. The actual emulation is fine. I'm a little iffy on how they implemented the multiple screens because it gives you multiple options. You can change how it does it, but the default option, if you remember the Castlevania games on DS, the top screen I believe was the gameplay, and the bottom the bottom screen was gameplay, and the top screen was information. And you could swap the information screen between a map and a status screen.
Right.
And the way that this does it by default is the gameplay screen is the left 2/3 of the screen.
Okay.
And the right third of the screen is both the map and the status screen.
All right.
And if you hit select instead of swapping them, it just changes their locations. So that map is on top and status is on bottom.
So useless.
Status on top and map is on bottom. Pretty useless. But you can change it so that it is just the gameplay screen and everything is on a sub screen, or you can change it to where it is just the two screens as they would be on DS.
Okay.
So
I kind of was hoping they'd have an option where you can transparent like the info screen over, because I can do that with emulators.
Right.
And that's how I usually play the Castlevania DS games. Is that I've got the map in the corner and it's kind of semi-transparent.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It is reminding me some of the complaints I had with these games.
Yeah.
Which is they feel a little too linear at times. Like you there's not a lot of sequence breaking or exploration. And so I feel like they lean a little, they don't lean hard enough into the Metroid part of the Metroidvania. And that's my biggest issue there. And also my other issue is the amount of reused assets in these games. Because the Castlevania series has always reused enemies and characters and stuff. I get that. But these are just straight up sprite rips from other games. And when you play them all back to back like I am right now, you really notice it.
Yeah.
Because like Portrait of Ruin just straight up uses a bunch of the same assets as Dawn of Sorrow, which straight up reuses assets from Aria of Sorrow. But then when you get to the random enemy that they don't reuse, that they redraw it, that one feels weird. Because all the rest of these are just from the last game, and this one looks different. And then when you get to Portrait of Ruin, it gets extra weird because one of the enemies that was redrawn in Dawn of Sorrow goes back to its Symphony of the Night portrait in Portrait of Ruin. And I'm like, wait, you can't just mix and match, sir.
Oh, they
That's not how this works.
This is Konami. They can release all the skateboards they want.
Yeah, and then they'll call it the best, and they'll put the same box art inside of the box art.
Yeah. God damn it.
It's fine though. It's a fine collection. If you're just looking to replay these games, it is probably the most accessible way to do so without fiddling with emulators.
Yeah.
So I'll give it that. Aside from that, also been playing Astrobot, which is phenomenal.
New one came out. Yeah, I heard it's real good.
So good. It's so good. It is on par with Nintendo platformers.
Okay.
I would say it is close to, if not the same caliber of quality as Mario Odyssey.
This puts the number of interesting software titles on PS5 to me at 3. The 2 Astro games and Demon's Souls Remaster. Those are the 3 titles.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But man, it's so good. I'm really hoping it gets a PC port so people can play it.
The first one did it?
It is not. Astro's Playroom was just a tech demo, not a game, so it didn't get any ports.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But this one is a full-fledged game, so I'm hoping it gets a port. I could see them using the excuse of, well, it does really proprietary things with the DualSense controller, so it wouldn't convert, blah, blah, blah. But it also has an accessibility option to turn off a lot of those things and just let it use the controller as a controller.
Yeah.
So I hope that means that it gets a port because it's just so good. People deserve to play it. The number of... it gives me that same, like, warm nostalgia feeling that Smash Brothers does, even though they're drastically different games.
Yeah.
Of constantly throwing references to old games at me. I do appreciate that Microsoft played nice and let Crash and Spyro appear in there.
Sure. Yeah.
However, it looks like Square Enix did not play nice because there are no Square Enix references whatsoever in the game.
Not shocking.
Yeah, there are some Konami references. I've encountered Solid Snake in 2 forms. Well, I've encountered Solid Snake and Naked Snake, I guess. And then also Gray Fox and Raiden and Psycho Mantis. And that's just super fun little throwbacks. There's a whole Ape Escape level where you just capture ape robots.
Yeah.
And that's fun and adorable. It's just the number of references to classic PlayStation stuff and some just classic games is way too many to mention. It's just charming and fun, and it's just a solid platformer to begin with. So it's worth checking out.
I've heard glowing things.
Yeah, it's very good. And then I noticed that the external hard drive on my Xbox died this week.
Oh, shit.
I didn't notice it at first because for people who don't have Series X or Series S, if you have an external hard drive plugged into it, you can't play games from that unless they are Xbox One, 360, or original Xbox games.
Which I didn't even notice for the longest time, which I guess says how many actual Series X games I play on my Xbox.
Yeah, you
But
can only
yeah.
have old games.
Yeah.
Any Series S or Series X games have to be on internal storage or the proprietary expansion
Fancy
memory
card.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of my older games are on my external storage, and I'd mostly been playing Series X games recently, so I'd not noticed. And when I was trying to play a game, it kept crashing my Xbox, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And eventually I narrowed it down to the hard drive. So I got the old hard drive to last just long enough to transfer all of its data to a new external solid state that I picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that transferring most of my games was no problem. I just selected the games, hit move. Then I got to Rock Band.
Oh, no.
And the way that Rock Band works is all of my extra music that I have in it, aside from what comes bundled in it, is considered as individual DLC items, every single one. So it was the game and 481 DLC items.
Which means 481 license transfers.
And it kept crashing because of how much it was.
God damn it.
So I had to go through and tell it to transfer 30 songs, and then wait for those to finish, then tell it to transfer 30 songs, and wait for those to finish. And it was, I hated it. I hated it so much. Just fuck whoever came up with that licensing structure. I love Rock Band, but I'm glad it's dead now because of this.
Yeah, like I get that there probably wasn't a better way to do it with how that kind of licensing worked, but just fuck it still.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all I've got.
Yeah. Well, let's do some news.
Okay.
First up, AMD is not developing high-end video cards for their next generation of cards, which I think is the good, smart, frugal, and correct thing to be doing.
True, but it also gives NVIDIA effectively a monopoly on high-end video cards for the next year.
Well, Intel's still doing their ARC stuff, you know.
Those are not high-end. Those are mid-range.
Well, maybe they'll do a high-end one. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple generations of the high-end cards, people have been, even the most positive inclined reviewers have been like, yeah, it's a marginal increase, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want that,
but it's not worth the $800.
Yeah, $900 or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they're getting a lot of traction with their Zen architecture and their RDNA stuff, and I think that's just the smart. I think this is just the smart move for them right now. Skip a generation or two, focus on your Zen architecture and your stuff that seems to be getting a lot of use in different areas. Right. And just kind of let NVIDIA spin their wheels on incremental gains and then show up in a year or two and be like, hey, here's some new shit.
Yeah. Yeah, on the one hand, I think it's fine because I don't think we need a new video card every single fucking year.
I don't either. I'm so fucking over phones normalizing the idea that everything has to have a yearly iterative release. It fucking doesn't. Right. Release some goddamn shit and let's have it for a little bit and then we can fucking make some new shit when the shit warrants it.
We had the Pentium 4 for what, like 7 years?
Yeah.
Before they finally replaced it. And now...
There was a point with the P4 where it was like, is this it? Are we just done? Is this as far as computers goes? Is that what's... Oh, hyper-threading. All right, cool. We did it. We've made it.
But it was still a P4. It was just a hyper-threaded
It's hyper-threaded.
And now Intel releases a new core chip every fucking year.
Yeah, fucking stop it, dude.
Yeah.
We see you, corporations.
And if AMD continues to sell their current high-end cards through the next generation, I'm okay with that. But I'm a little worried about them pulling them from the market and letting NVIDIA just have the market because NVIDIA already pretty much owns the PC video card market. Yeah. And I really want AMD to come back. I want NVIDIA to have competition, just like I want Sony to have competition in the video game, in the console market.
Former Sony Computer Entertainment Europe president Chris Deering says games industry layoffs have nothing to do with greed and devs should go drive an Uber or go to the beach for a year if they get laid off.
That's what he sounds like, by the way.
Yeah. Fuck you, Chris Deering.
He's European, but that's his voice.
Why don't you go drive a fucking Uber for a year and see how your mental state does, you fucking psychopath? What does that even
just stay on the beach?
What? How? Like,
you don't have an income anymore. Just hang out on the beach. You'll be fine.
Here's my problem.
Home.
Driving an Uber for a year does not equate to laying on a beach for a year. No, what are you even fucking talking about? You pompous, stupid, useless piece of shit.
Well, what does it matter if you get laid off? Just go to the beach for a year. You'll be fine.
Go work a shitty, soul-sucking, part-time, gig economy, bullshit, no benefits job, or take a beach vacation. Those two things are the same. This is how in touch with normal humans.
Go work at Subway.
At least that's in line with driving Uber.
Right.
If he was like, go drive an Uber or work at Subway, sure, but just go to the beach for a year. Chris, you dumb fucking idiot. Just listen for a second. Listen.
Seriously.
If they could afford to go to the fucking beach for a year, they wouldn't be making your fucking video games. Right. They'd be on the fucking beach.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been working to get laid off.
What? Like what?
Yeah.
God damn it.
Fortunately, these executives are grounded and in touch with reality.
So they're the people running our lives.
Yeah.
Everybody. Anyway, Retro Fighters announced a 6-button Dreamcast pad, so that's cool, I guess.
It looks a good-looking controller.
I don't want to be down on it because it's got to follow that. Yeah, they do good stuff. I hear good things, and it can only improve upon the Dreamcast controller because it's all room for improvement there.
I do really like the PS3 controller I got from them recently, so
yeah,
I am excited by it. It looks kind of like a Saturn controller.
I was talking in the Discord the other day. I was like, man, between 8BitDo and Retro Fighters and like Ghillie Kit, like we really are in kind of the golden age of third-party controllers.
Yeah.
Like they've never been this good,
right?
So it's nice to,
it's a nice change from back when the third-party controllers were the little brother controller.
Oh yeah, and there was a
visitor controller,
a brief moment, just a moment, where it was like, hey, Mad Catz is getting pretty good. Oh, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone now. Yeah.
Yeah, when they were making the Rock Band 3 accessories.
Yeah, around that time. They're also making some good arcade sticks around that time. And then it was like, oh, they're gone now.
Yep.
New Game Pass Standard tier released. Also, price conversion for Xbox Live Gold / Game Pass Core to Game Pass Ultimate has been reduced to 2-to-1. I'm too stupid to understand most of the math going on here, but it's bad, right?
So it used to be that if you had, let's say, 8 months left on your Xbox Live Gold subscription and you upgraded to Game Pass Ultimate, you would then have 8 months of Game Pass Ultimate.
Okay.
Right? And now you would only have 4 months of Game Pass Ultimate. Because those 8 months of core are equivalent to 4 months of Ultimate.
Is it still considered rug pulling if Microsoft is doing it imperceptibly slowly? You know?
And for a little while there, they had changed it to a 3-to-2 ratio, which meant you had to do math.
God damn it. I hate math.
But now it's just having your time, which is still math, but it's much easier math.
Yeah. X-Win 1 is a new fan project to play Xbox One software on PC, which is traditionally what we would call an emulator.
Yeah, well, it's not exactly
I guess it's not really because the architecture is the same.
Yeah, because it's the same architecture and it's the same basic OS kernel.
So it's just a software layer.
Yeah, it's essentially a software layer.
Yeah.
Conversion layer.
Well, that's good because that means if it gets working, it should be pretty good pretty fast.
They have a handful of indie games already loading, which is neat.
Nice.
So I'm excited to see where that goes.
More of Toa Plan's classic shmups are being reissued on modern console. Slap Fight and... This sounds like a sex app on my phone that I don't want to install. Grindstormer announced at TGS.
What's wrong, Justin? You don't like Slap Fight and Grindstormer?
I was on Grindstormer last night. You know how it is.
I had to schedule a slap fight.
What the fuck? That's cool. Toaplan has a lot of cool shmups. It's always good to see more of those hit the market.
See them becoming more accessible.
Square Enix / Taito have teamed up with F84 to release a series of Space Invaders wristwatches with touchscreen controls.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I also got a new watch with my new phone.
Ooh, the Pixel Watch?
Yeah, the Pixel Watch 3.
Oh, does it have little Space Invaders on it? Or?
Yeah, better. Fucking better.
There was a Space Invaders Casio not long ago, I believe. Oh, no, it was a Timex. It was a Timex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, common.
I do remember seeing it.
Yeah, I remember that Timex because it sold out immediately.
Yeah.
PlayStation Plus is adding Secret Agent Clank, Mr. Mosquito, and Sky Gunner. So there you go.
I'm surprised to see Sony acknowledging Mr. Mosquito.
Yeah, after all these years, finally the acknowledgement that he never had.
Because they refused to even release it outside of Japan back when it came out. Somebody else had to license it from Sony to release it everywhere. And now they're acting like it's a beloved classic title in their repertoire.
Well, they also just announced a $700 piece of hardware that lacks a disk drive. So, they gotta give us something.
You can play Mr. Mosquito on it, at least.
There you go. EU files a complaint against several video game companies, including Epic, EA, Roblox, and 4 others, regarding predatory marketing and pricing practices. Fucking good. At least someone goddamn gives a goddamn shit about our consumer rights. Just not in this country. Just a different area.
We just have to hope that rights from over there trickle down to us.
I don't think that's how that's gonna happen.
I know. Well, I mean, it sometimes happens because they forced Apple to put USB-C chargers in the iPhones, and now that's happening nationwide.
That's true, but I feel like that's only because of laziness on Apple's part.
True.
We
just have to hope that the video game companies are equally lazy in their pricing structures.
But I think what we've learned is that they're extremely ambitious when it comes to fucking us.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope you're right. I'll say that.
I'm not hopeful, but I am hopeful.
Xbox is laying off another 650 employees after laying off 1,900 employees earlier this year.
Well, maybe they can go drive an Uber.
God damn it. Many of them probably will have to. Yes. Yeah. Hopefully more of them can go to the beach for a year. I couldn't even imagine implying that anyone physically could go to a beach. What do you do on a beach for a year?
Right?
You just fucking rent a condo there and just lay on a beach for a year? Is this what rich people do?
I guess so.
Because all the rich people I hear want to talk about how hard they work all the time, day in and day out, all these long hours.
Yeah.
And then apparently they're like, go lay on a beach for a year. And I'm like, You go fucking lay on a beach for a year and save us all your dumbassery. I know I'm back on the Chris Deering story again. Unity is removing their controversial runtime fee. Took this fucking long? Unity, really? Yeah. God damn.
Well, I guess the loudest backlash has finally quieted down, so they thought they could sneak this in under the radar.
Yeah, and look like good guys. They're like, people will praise us now. We let them get up off the ground just long enough after pummeling them.
Yeah.
So now they'll thank us. Yeah. Annapurna Interactive has lost its leadership and entire staff.
Yeah, this is a sad one. Did you read this?
I had read that they were trying to do an independent thing.
Yeah, they were trying to spin off, and the ownership wouldn't let them, so they just all quit.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, good on them for sticking to their guns, but
right. But now a bunch of indie devs who had publication contracts where they're supposed to be getting funding from
Stray, Outer Wilds, Gorgoa, Neon White, Edith Finch.
But a bunch of these developers are still working on projects. Like, who do we talk to? How do we get our funding?
The answer is nobody and from nowhere.
Yeah, and so the parent company of Annapurna has already put a new communications director in place who is trying desperately to make it sound like this isn't a bad thing.
You mean they randomly hired a temp and then told them to talk to 15 different indie developers?
No, I think they grabbed somebody from Annapurna Pictures and just told them that they are representing Annapurna Interactive now.
That's worse.
Yep.
And finally, Square Enix is remaking the Hokkaido serial murder case, an early visual novel by Yuji Horii. So that's a cool thing to see.
His follow-up to Portopia serial murder case, which got remade a couple of years ago.
Yep. Very fun. Which brings us to our topic at hand.
Yes.
Which is Eidos. The Tomb Raider people. What did the Tomb Raider and stuff? One day I'll play one of those games.
Well, some of them are fun.
I played what was the PS2 one? Dark something?
Oh, Angel of Darkness.
Angel of Darkness. That's the one I played.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I think I have a skill for playing the worst entry of a game. Because last episode I was talking about how my first Deus Ex game was Invisible War.
Oh, no.
And then that was my first Tomb Raider was Angel of Darkness.
I feel like part of it is just that you were experiencing so much of the video game world during the PS2 Xbox
It's
GameCube
true.
era,
Yeah.
when so many of the companies were phoning in sequels.
Yes. And so that's what I got to enjoy.
Ugh.
Eidos was founded in 1984 in Putney, London, in the UK under the name Dumark Limited. Domark.
Or Dalmark? I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not.
I always called it Domark, but
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
First encounters, I didn't.
Invisible War.
Yeah, Invisible War.
An
Basically,
Angel of Darkness.
An Angel of Darkness. Yeah, it kind of is. I was looking at the list to see if there's anything that like I really remembered. There's not much. A lot of the earlier stuff was sports stuff. I saw a game called Johnny Bazooka Tone.
Yeah, Johnny Bazooka Tone is one of the early ones. Yeah.
Which, goddamn, that looks stupid as shit. But I think, because I skipped Tomb Raider. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of their earlier.
Wait. All right, here it is. The PC port of Final Fantasy VII.
That's true. Yeah,
that would have been where I started with them.
Oof.
Yeah, and then I went straight into Angel of Darkness for my next Eidos title.
Yeah, I remember seeing the name pop up with Tomb Raider. That was probably the first time I saw the name, and then just suddenly they were everywhere doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they exploded in the PS1 era. They were one of the most prominent, prolific PS1 developers after having never heard of them before. So they just felt like they came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah. Let's talk Domark.
Yes, so this is the original company. So
yes,
they're founded by Mark. It's either Strachan or Strahan, depending on the website that I found. Neither of them seem correct.
My American pronunciation would be Stachan.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Stayan or Stockin was what it said. And neither of those look.
We're going to call him Mark so as not to offend him,
Mark. Right?
Entirely.
Yes, and he and Dominic Wheatley were working for a small advertising agency in London, and they came up with this idea for a video game company. From what I had read, they both independently came up with this idea. Mark had seen his cousin or brother or somebody play some C64 games and was like, I need to make a video game company, and pitched it to the other guy, Dominic. And that guy was like, nah, that's dumb. And then he was walking home and passed a store where they were selling a bunch of Amigas, and he was like, we need to make a video game company.
Never mind. Let's do it. Which
is the origin story that I was reading made it sound like they were both insane people. Anyway. So they built up some revenue for the company by releasing C64 and BBC Micro conversions of the game Trivial Pursuit, which is, of course, a famous board game.
Yeah, so famous, and I wish it wasn't.
Yeah, a well-known trivia board game.
The only fun part of Trivial Pursuit is sticking the little pie piece into your little wedge holder.
Yeah,
so satisfying.
It is. I would buy a game that was just speed Trivial Pursuit wedges, but I guess that's just perfection.
I was about to say they had that. It's called Perfection, and it was my favorite board game because I could play it by myself because I didn't have any friends. So anyway,
we didn't have Perfection. I could only play it at my grandmother's house, and she hated it because it made noise.
Oh no, I fucking loved Perfection. God, I played the shit out of that.
So they made enough money off of Trivial Pursuit conversions. They were able to start working on an original games they were calling Eureka, and to give it was I think it was a visual novel or a text adventure. I don't remember. But to give the game some credibility, they sought out the help of Sir Ian Livingstone, who was co-founder of Fighting Fantasy, alongside Steve Jackson, but not the Steve Jackson we talked about last episode.
Right. So there's two Steve Jacksons, and they both work in tabletop gaming. The other Steve Jackson was the co-founder of Games Workshop, which you might know for their Warhammer.
That's this Steve Jackson, right?
That's this Steve Jackson.
Yes.
And then Ian Livingstone, co-founded with Steve Jackson, I believe, the Fighting Fantasy books.
Yeah.
Which are still published. You can still buy new printings of Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the other ones. No one ever remembers the other ones, but Warlock of Firetop Mountain. And they're really fun. I was playing one a couple years ago.
Nice.
So yeah, Ian Livingstone and the British Steve Jackson.
Yeah.
Both did the Fighting Fantasy books, which is probably what they're best known for.
Okay.
And then some games have now riffed on the Fighting Fantasy game system. I think most notably Troika uses a Fighting Fantasy similar or adjacent system.
Okay.
And that's the extent of my knowledge of them.
Yeah, I was not at all familiar with Sir Ian Livingstone before I started reading about this.
He's a Fighting Fantasy guy.
Okay.
Which there have been some video game adaptations of Fighting Fantasy, so he's technically looped into video games in multiple ways, I suppose.
Yeah, that was almost the name of the first Final Fantasy.
Was it? I assume they had to change it for trademark reasons then.
Possibly. He was just looking for the initials FF, and one of the combinations he came up with was Fighting Fantasy, and they were told they had to change it. So,
oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, Ian Livingstone comes in, helps them with the writing for this game, Eureka, and he was impressed enough with the operation that he decided to invest in the company, and also to help advertise this game. Domark offered a £25,000 prize to the first player to complete the game. If you sent them proof that you finished the game, they would send you 25,000 British pounds.
All right.
I don't know that they ever did. I couldn't find any evidence that there was a winner, but it was at least advertised as such.
Okay.
And the game sold all right. They sold 15,000 copies, which by today's standards seems like nothing at all.
Nothing, but pretty successful in a British...
Right, when you're selling cassette tapes to British
microcomputer market, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable success for early 80s.
Totally.
So with that money from their success, they sought out the rights to do other things, specifically to make video games based on the James Bond license, which massive license for a tiny company.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
And they got it. So they were able to successfully get the license to specifically not the entire Bond library, but the film A View to a Kill, which was a recent film. And they released their game in 1985 to decent reviews. And according to Wheatley, the game was actually quite successful.
Okay.
Which is a very British way to say it.
I was about to say that's the most British way to refer to your successful software release. As if you're just pleasantly surprised that it didn't financially ruin you.
Yeah. So they had their Bond game, they had their original game, and then they re-released Trivial Pursuit again in 1986, and they sold 2 million copies of Trivial Pursuit. Which was, of course, their biggest success at that point. That allowed them to start attending trade shows, and as I was reading this part of their history, I was like, this sounds like Game Dev Story.
I was about to say, this is like in Game Dev Story, I'm like, I'm going to make a Ninja Pirate action game, and nobody buys it, and then I'm like I'm going to
I'll go make a sequel to my board trivia game.
Yeah, puzzle game about cubes, and it's called Wet Butts. Oh, it's critically acclaimed.
Oh, I was invited to the trade show.
Then you have to make Wet Butts too. People that don't know, you get to name your own game in Game Dev Story. So it's always like,
I never named mine Wet Butts, but all right. So they started going to trade shows at CES in 1987. Wheatley met a representative from Atari Games, which was the splinter-off company from Atari, the arcade version. Who approached them about converting some of their arcade games to home computers, and they wanted to start with a conversion of the other Atari's Star Wars arcade game to computers, because Atari Games had the rights to all of Atari's arcade games. So Domark and Atari Games found some success with that Star Wars port, and they started working on a bunch of Atari Games' other games to PCs, and several of Domark's games came to consoles, published by Tengen, which was Atari Games' console division. So they had a good working relationship between Domark and Atari Games.
Yeah,
and they continued to see success. They branched out. They made an international office in Silicon Valley. They kept doing board game conversions. They licensed some more Bond games. They continue to do Atari game stuff as well as conversions of some of EA's games to other platforms that EA wasn't targeting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got a dev kit from Sega and started making some stuff on the Master System and Game Gear and Mega Drive, specifically, again, to Bond games. So they started to see some more and more success, mostly with conversions and licensed stuff, but they were starting to make a name for themselves.
It feels very way forward-esque.
Yeah.
Kind of the way they approach a lot of their business stuff, where they're like, look, we're just going to get some licenses and do some work, and then that will let us work on the things we really care to be doing.
So now that they're starting to make a name for themselves, they're starting to make some money, starting to have some successes. Suddenly the business side of things gets more involved because there's more money involved.
Yeah.
So they were spending so much money trying to make these games that they're starting to struggle despite these successes. They were just becoming expensive.
Yeah.
So they couldn't keep up with the development cost despite the games doing well. And so they met up with a video compression software company called Eidos. And
what a way to start your empire.
Right.
Compression software.
And so the two companies agreed to what's called a reverse merger, which I am not financially smart enough to understand the specifics of.
And me neither, no.
But basically what it was that Eidos would take over Domark, but Domark's leadership would take over the new Eidos.
In my head, you say reverse merger is, I would say that a reverse merger is a separation.
Yeah, apparently that's not what it is.
God damn it. My wife could explain it perfectly. I would forget it immediately, but she would be helpful in this.
We'll just dub her in explaining to us what it means.
Yeah.
So a reverse merger is when a private company buys a public company so that they can then become public. Public meaning they have stocks available for sale on the stock market. Private companies, you can't buy shares in them. Public companies, you can. And to go public, there's a lot of regulations around it. So it's kind of like a lot of work to become a public company. So the reverse merger is a way of a company that's private, kind of shortcutting that and going public.
Yeah. So Strand and Wheatley took over leadership of the new company, and it became Eidos despite them still being involved. And that was completed in September of 95 for a price of £12.9 million. And eventually Strand left, and it was just Wheatley and Sir Ian Livingstone who had bought the stake in the company earlier. And he took over as executive chairman of the new company.
Of course.
Because he was the one with the money. And Wheatley would leave in 97, right before they really started to become massive and hit their success. So this new company that was Eidos was super aggressive at buying other companies immediately, which is really more like modern day video games than it is like mid-90s video games.
Sure.
They were ahead of the curve there. So they acquire, among their many acquisitions, they bought a company called Centergold, who is the parent company of Centersoft and US Gold.
Mm-hmm. I remember US Gold. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest part of this acquisition was Core Design, who is a division of US Gold. Core Design, who would go on to develop Tomb Raider. The Centergold acquisition cost £17.6 million, which was more than the actual Eidos purchase, if you recall.
Yep. By about $5 million.
Yeah. So the company itself was valued at $12 million, and now they're spending $17 million. Business doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't understand. If you can, they got like a credit card, or how do you do that?
Yeah, right. So, so Core Design does go on to develop Tomb Raider, which was their biggest success. I would like to note that Core Design's biggest success prior to Tomb Raider was Chuck Rock.
Look, there was a place for caveman-based platformers for a little bit there. It gave us Chuck Rock. It gave us Joe and Mac. It gave us Bonk.
Yeah.
We got a lot of things in the heyday the renaissance of the new Stone Age. We got the Flintstones live action remakes.
Yeah.
Saturn. This was a good era for people that really love rocks.
Did you ever play
and
BC
dinosaurs.
Racers?
No, but I remember that one.
Yeah, it's
I remember
a
that one.
racing game spinoff of Chuck Rock.
What a weird thing for society to collectively and very briefly be into.
Did you ever play Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck?
I can't tell if you're just making up caveman sounding games and saying
I'm not.
them.
These are all real things that happened.
Son of Chuck.
I believe Sony still owns the rights to the Chuck Rock franchise.
Where is our Chuck Rock remake, Sony?
Oh, where is my Chuck Rock bot and Astrobot, Sony?
But also, Rick Dangerous is pretty well remembered.
That's true. Yeah, they did
You
do that
know,
as well.
I know we're making fun of Chuck Rock, but that you know, it was okay at the time. And then I feel like Rick Dangerous was a thing.
Yeah,
people liked Rick Dangerous.
That was the other big thing that Core Design had done. So Tomb Raider, massive success, fully made back all the money they spent on the Center Gold acquisition.
Oh yeah,
almost immediately. So now Eidos is bloated with Tomb Raider money, so they continue their buying spree. Their next massive acquisition was Crystal Dynamics for £28.4 million.
Numbers keep going up.
Prior to the acquisition, Crystal D was most well known for games like Total Eclipse, Gex, Blazing Dragons, Pandemonium, and Blood Omen Legacy of Kain.
Obviously, of that list, Gex has remained the cultural staple, while everything else has clearly fallen off.
Gex is actually about to get that remake.
Oh.
Or the trilogy remake. It's
I
the
forgot
bundle of all
about
three of
that.
them.
I forgot about that. Did they still have Dana Gould's voice in there? Or did you think
they still have his voice in all three of the games. Yeah,
excellent.
So
I like that.
I'm actually kind of excited about that. And then of course they purchased Ion Storm, which we talked about in the last episode.
Yep.
They never actually fully owned Ion Storm. They actually only purchased 51% of the company in April of '99, and they continued to hold majority ownership until they closed down the studio in 2005. So apparently that 51% was enough to shit can everyone.
Yeah.
That's all you need. The other 49% doesn't matter.
Thanks, Eidos.
In 2002, they formed Fresh Games, a division of Eidos that would publish imports of Japanese games like Mad Maestro and R-Type Final and Mr. Mosquito, which was a weird time for Eidos. None of those games feel very Eidos-y.
No. I don't know. They feel very. And I can't remember what publisher we talked about feeling this same way, but they feel very Embracer Group of their day.
Yeah.
Of just like, we're going to gobble everything up that we possibly can and just keep cranking stuff out. And then the shit that takes too long or isn't profitable enough, like Deus Ex, which
get it out.
Had some development, we're just going to shut that shit down. Yeah.
And then in 2004, they bought IO Interactive, which was the Hitman guys.
Yes.
And Eidos had been publishing those games since 2000, but in 2004, they formalized it by buying the company. And also during this era, they did some weird localizations. Even prior to the Fresh Games things, they localized FF7 on PC, which you mentioned earlier. They also localized Dragon Quest Monsters on Game Boy.
I saw that. A weird pick.
Right? And then also Legaia 2 under the Fresh Games label on PS2, which Sony wouldn't localize themselves. Just some weird JRPGs as part of their catalog of mostly Tomb Raider and Hitman and Legacy of Kain and shit.
Yeah.
Just a very strange mixture there.
Yeah. Most definitely strange.
And that's when they were their most bloated. Just a super huge company, flush with Tomb Raider money, because they'd also licensed out the Tomb Raider movie, which made them a shitload of money.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about those Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies. Those were a fucking thing in the aughts.
Yeah, and there was also a Tomb Raider reboot movie a few years ago.
Was there?
Yeah, in like 2019 or some shit.
I do not remember this.
Yeah, it was, I don't remember who played her, and it was, I don't know who this woman is. Alicia Vikander?
That does not ring any bells.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
As in 2018, it was a reboot based on the Reboot video game series. And there is another Tomb Raider movie coming out in 2025.
Are these in theaters? How did I miss this entirely? Oh my God. I'm so out of touch, Saturn.
Right?
I don't know what's happening.
They made all kinds of money off of the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies, and they made all kinds of money off of the Tomb Raider games.
Which,
and
to be fair,
Legacy
those
Games
Tomb Raider
games were doing pretty
movies
well.
were stupid as fuck.
Oh yeah,
But they knew that they were stupid as fuck.
Wasn't Angelina Jolie's dad in one of them too?
I don't know. I just remember
John
them. Yes. I don't know. It's been a long
think
time.
He played her dad too.
I feel like they had very much like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy energy, where they're like,
Yes.
look, we know this is dumb. We know it's over the top. Please don't take it seriously. We're just having fun. It's stupid, dumb action.
Yeah.
And I will say, at least the first one, I will say they did kind of nail that vibe of like just like goofy fun.
Yeah, that's clearly what they were going for.
And one of the few good video game movies of the
Of that
90s and early aughts.
Yeah,
For sure.
I would say it was a good adaptation of what Tomb Raider was at that time,
Yes.
which was the oversexed Indiana Jones knockoff.
Yeah. Anyway.
So they've had a bunch of successes and all of that. But
right, so they've grown huge, and now infinite growth will happen in perpetuity, right?
Yeah, perfect. End of story.
Numbers can go up for infinity, so why can't money?
Yeah, so that didn't happen.
What? Infinite growth didn't happen?
It turns out that spending all of that money was expensive.
But you got to have money to spend money.
That's not true, actually. That's what credit cards are for.
Oh shit! Is that what those are?
Yeah. So it turns out that just buying everything and spending all the money was not the most financially correct decision.
That's what I do.
So even early in their spending spree in 2000, Infogrames, who is now Atari, had announced they would purchase Eidos to bail them out of financial trouble. But then that deal fell through, and Eidos pretended like they never had any financial trouble, and they didn't even need Infogrames to begin with. They're fine, whatever. What are you even talking about?
Yeah, fuck you. Leave us alone.
So that kept going for a while, and then in March of 2005, former EA president John Riccitiello, whose name I can never say correctly, he and his private equity firm had made a bid to purchase Eidos for £71 million.
Mm-hmm.
The plan was to take the company private, let it regroup without any investor pressure, and learn how to become profitable again, so that it could then go out into the world. But instead, the following day, another company called SCI, who had published games like Conflict, Desert Storm, and Carmageddon, they came out and said, "Oh, we will buy Eidos instead for $74 million." And then there was some negotiation, and SCI went deep into debt to purchase Eidos, who is the larger company. And they actually ended up buying Eidos for £103 million. Which is more than what SCI was even worth at the time.
This can all only end well.
Yeah. So they did see a little bit of success under SCI's management. Crystal Dynamics took over Tomb Raider development. Core Design staff and assets were sold off to Rebellion Entertainment.
How come we get told that we're dumb for paying off credit cards with other credit cards? But then these companies can do this fucking shit. Yeah.
Well, don't worry. Somebody more successful will just buy you in the end. It's fine, right? It's fine.
It's just, goddamn.
You just have to float long enough for somebody with more money to go deeper into debt to buy you. That's
right.
all,
Where do I find these marks, these rubes?
Right? Seriously. So Tomb Raider Hitman continued to do all right. They had started production on a reboot of Deus Ex, and they launched Just Cause, which was successful.
Just Cause were fun.
Yeah.
Those were fun games.
They opened up some new studios in Montreal and Shanghai, and they got the rights from Warner Brothers to develop a Batman game with developer Rocksteady, which would go on to become Arkham Asylum.
You may have heard of it. Yeah.
So
quite popular.
There were some good decisions during this time, but also they were massively in debt.
What? But how? They got all this debt, and then the company that bought them got a bunch of debt to buy them. But then, so doesn't the debt, like, it hits the other debt and like eradicates it, like like a dark matter situation?
It got to the point where just the interest on their debt was significantly more than the income from all of these games combined. So they
turns
were
out Ian Livingstone is not great. running companies.
Who knew? So
Although
there's
he's
hemorrhaging
rich and
money.
I'm not, so fuck me.
Right.
What do I know?
Yeah, so clearly he had some ideas.
Yeah.
So, and then also they'd released Kane and Lynch, and that did so poorly. And
Oh my
they had all
God.
this- it was just a mess. So,
Kane and
they're-
Lynch was, for people that don't remember that, was so
disaster.
fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, it was bad. It was bad and it was stupid and people hated it. I think that's the one that had wasn't Kane and Lynch that had the Jeff Gersman review media drama around it?
I don't remember if it was Kane and Lynch or Kane and Lynch 2, but it was one of them.
It's one of them, and the whole plot was just like shitty
Yeah.
dickhead action star guys doing, I don't even fucking know. It was
Yeah.
stupid as hell.
Yeah. So they're hemorrhaging money. The value of the company had dropped to half of its value before they merged with Eidos. So they were worth so little. They just kept hemorrhaging money. Then they renamed themselves to Eidos for some reason. Again,
They were
I
so
don't
embarrassed to continue being
Right?
SCI after this that
Yeah.
they're like, fuck it, just pretend you're someone else.
yeah. So eventually in February of 2009, Square Enix came in and were like, you know what, we'll just buy you. We'll buy you for 84 million pounds.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
money is meaningless.
Yeah. It's
And
just
we're
a number.
gonna keep throwing money on top of money and hope that this fixes itself. So in April of 2009, they acquired Eidos in its entirety. And then the merger was completed by November. Eidos's original studio offices were rebranded to Square Enix Europe, with only the Montreal and Shanghai studios allowed to keep the Eidos name,
Mhm.
which is basically the last remnants of what was Eidos. Everything else was
Aw.
just kind of absorbed into the entity that was Square Enix. at the
It's
time.
hard to feel that bad about a company that was basically just gobbling up other companies in the
Yes.
first place.
Yeah, they were basically Pac-Man the company for a while there.
Yeah. So not a lot of love lost there, I think.
So
But they did end up with quite the legacy after
True.
this snowball of debt that
Yeah.
somehow ended in debt going away.
no, it didn't. It just got shuffled to different companies.
Oh, fuck.
So the Batman game did end up releasing as Batman Arkham Asylum. It was a huge success for Square Enix immediately after they acquired Eidos. Though Warner Brothers would buy back the rights to the game and handle any reissues of the game. Other Eidos games that saw success under Square Enix was the reboots of Tomb Raider and Deus Ex.
Yep.
Also, Square Enix made several of Eidos's classic games available on Steam and GOG so that people could go back and buy them. Not patched or fixed to work on modern computers.
No,
in any way.
they'll let the fans do that unless
Yeah.
they do it too good and then they get a cease and desist letter.
Right. Then Square Enix sold off the rights to the Hitman franchise back to IO Interactive, who split off from Square Enix in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
which is why Hitman is still successful today because Square Enix stopped touching it.
Yep. I would say possibly more successful than ever. They're
Yeah.
very well regarded.
Yeah, they're doing
I
very well.
think I played the first one because they have 2 new Hitmans out, right?
Now, what was Hitman 3 has become Hitman World of Assassination or something, and it's basically just a omnibus package that includes all of the current remake Hitmans under one package.
Oh, that sounds fun.
They basically just merged them all into one executive.
I mean, I like tactical espionage action, and that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
So
just
you know.
just murdery.
Yeah. You also you can, like stuff a fucking chicken into a bathroom sink and get all the people to come in there, and then just shoot them in the face as soon as they walk in.
And you can do so while dressed as a chicken.
At
So, you
what
know.
point does someone in the hallway not go, "Hey, 37 people have entered this one-person bathroom and not come back out"?
I should go investigate.
What kind of fucking clown car is going on here?
Let me go in there on my own to find out.
It makes me think of the first time I played Splinter Cell,
Yeah.
and you shoot out a light, and the guy will go, "Oh, the light broke." Yeah, dude, the light went out and then exploded with the sound of a silenced gunfire going off, and then so did the next 3 consecutive light bulbs.
Did you ever play the
fucking
PS2 port of
idiot.
Splinter Cell?
I think I played all of my Splinter Cell on Xbox.
The PS2 port took away the ability to shoot out most of the lights.
Well, how do you fucking play it then?
But you could still shoot out certain lights.
Well,
And you knew that those were the ones that were the most useful.
well,
And so if you then go back and play the Xbox version after playing the PS2 one, if you remember which lights they are, it basically turns the game into easy mode.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, I loved Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell was fun, and then they wanted to get all weird. And it's like they got too Tom Clancy with it. All of a sudden, it's like, I don't know, the plot to a Harrison Ford movie from the 90s. And I'm like, nah, man, I just want to be sneaky suit man with my little
Sam Fisher
pistol.
wanting his family back.
Yeah. Anyway, where the fuck were we?
Oh yeah. So they did other successful titles that happened
Yes.
during the Square Enix ownership of Eidos were Life is Strange, Sleeping Dogs, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy successful?
Yeah,
Oh.
it made its money back, and as far as critical reviews, it was a success.
Oh, okay.
And then Square Enix Europe and Crystal Dynamics made a big push into big budget live service games with the announcement and release of Marvel's Avengers in 2020 and Outriders in 2021.
How'd those do, Saturn?
Not great.
Really?
Not great.
You mean people don't want you to perpetually sell them the same game every month for the rest of time?
I think Square Enix is still trying to sell Outriders.
Oh my
I think
God.
that's still technically available.
Square Enix, stop.
But of course, Avengers was discontinued. Square Enix sold off the rights to Avengers. They have nothing to do with it anymore.
Yeah.
Because of how poorly those sold, Square Enix sold off Avengers and Tomb Raider and Deus Ex and Thief and several other Eidos properties, as well as the staff at Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Eidos Shanghai to Embracer Group for pennies on the dollar, really.
Oh yeah.
And Eidos Shanghai was renamed to Gearbox Studios Shanghai, which is weird.
Yep.
Eidos Montreal has just recently been renamed to Eidos Interactive, which was the name of Eidos at one point. And development of a new Tomb Raider reboot is underway at Crystal Dynamics and Amazon for some reason.
A reboot.
Yeah, reboot. And Eidos Montreal told Jason Schreier that they were in the very, very early development stages of a new Deus Ex in 2022, though they've since seen major layoffs at Embracer, so we don't know what the current state is. And also, Eidos Montreal is currently working with Microsoft and Playground Games on the new Fable reboot. So
At some point, it feels like this big company facilitated the release of all these things, and we were like, oh, we like these things. And they were like, good. What if we keep fucking shoving them down your throat for decades?
Yeah.
And then we're like, no, please stop. Quit.
Really, what is left of Eidos and Crystal D feels like a zombie at this point, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sad.
I know that we all get excited about reboots, especially franchises that we like, and we were just talking about how the Hitman reboots were pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of these reboots lose things in the process. You know, I was doing a lot of looking into the original Deus Ex and what was lost in the reboots and the freedom that was lost, and the like listening to Warren Spector talk about his Deus Ex postmortem and like, hey, this is what makes Deus Ex what it is.
Yeah.
And then these core principles being utterly and fundamentally betrayed in the reboots. Which, granted, the reboots are fun action games. I liked them.
Games.
I liked them. But they betray so many of the core philosophies of Deus Ex that it's like...
It's hard to feel like it's the same game.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, just call it something else. Just call it Robo Action Man, you know?
Yeah.
Adam Jensen, Robot Man, colon,
the movie.
Cyberpunk, the movie.
Yeah.
Like, just, you know, I don't know. And it just reaches a point where, like, the reboots just feel like, is it even a reboot, or are you just labeling this with something that seems recognizable within your library of titles that you own? Like, are you really rebooting Tomb Raider, or are you just making a new action game starring a female protagonist and going, put her in a fucking tank top, call it Tomb Raider? Like,
and part of it, I wonder if like the development staff had intended for it to be a Deus Ex reboot, and then like as they're developing it, they're like, we can't do any of these things. We just have to keep pivoting until it's no longer what it started as.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they're I think timeline wise they're prequels to the original game too. So I
Yes.
don't know. It's hard not to feel cynical about companies like Eidos and the weird homunculus of debt and constantly rebooting things that it has turned into. I know a lot of times these reboots go well, like with Hitman. I would say also the Tomb Raider reboot did very well.
Yep.
But
I would say that the Tomb Raider reboot series treats Lara Croft as a more realistic and sympathetic character than the original did too.
More of a human being
and less of a Barbie doll.
Yeah, than just tits with guns attached.
Yep. Which is really the subtitle of Angel of Darkness.
Really? They could have never called it Tomb Raider and just called it Tits with Guns Attached. And people would have been like, fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take tits with guns on them. Gun tits.
The first
That's
one or
it.
the second one?
I guess we're into final thoughts. It's Eidos is one of those instances of like, was it really ever a game publishing company or was it a snowball of debt momentum?
Yeah,
that happened
poor
to
business
focus
management.
Yeah, that happened to focus in the software industry.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say. I think.
I think really they're a Trivial Pursuit front company.
Clearly, they're waiting to release their masterful remake of their C64 Trivial Pursuit game on the Switch using HD Rumble so that the second you snap your pie piece into your pie piece holder thing, it gives you a perfect little rumble effect. Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Exactly.
It's going to be so satisfying, almost as satisfying as our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where you can be satisfied at all of the shit we do. We do other shows and longer versions of this show.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. And look, it's late. But there's a lot of stuff there. I record for like 16 hours a month. And if you're not on our Patreon, you only get to listen to like 4 of it. And maybe you're like, that's all of you that I can stomach. In which case, I agree. But if you want more, then there's many, 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 many more hours. The other day I was trying to quantify how many hours of speaking, of me talking is available on the internet.
It's more than 10.
It's a lot. I mean, it's got to be close to like 800 hours of me just fucking talking.
And that's just what's available.
Yeah, that's just what's out there. I got a couple hundred hours on a hard drive somewhere that is not available.
Even if you don't want to subscribe to the Patreon, you should still come join our Discord server and chat with us. And you don't have to hear Justin's voice at that point.
No.
Though you do still have to talk to him sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes when you read the things I say, you hear it in my voice.
Yeah. Yeah,
but you can give me a stupider voice if you want. And I would be okay with that. Anyway, we want to thank the following patrons for the money that they give us, starting with Chris R.
And Craig Cargill.
Epic Da Vinci.
EMD.
Matt Stone.
Orange Joe.
Friendly Phalanx.
Jordan Ish.
Jonathan Meisner.
And Mike Rotondo.
Are all the people that we just thanked just now. And
I would like to thank all those people for having easily pronounced names.
It was a very easy time for us at this
straightforward one.
Second show of the night after midnight.
Yeah.
We made it.
Barely after midnight.
Yeah, but it's late for me. It's so late. I've been on my diet for so long that my body has now decided that the way it's going to trick me into moving less is by making me need to sleep more.
Yeah.
And it's terrible.
Part of that might just be aging, because let me tell you, I just love sleeping now.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll get like 8-9 hours and then I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to fucking die. So I don't know what it is. I think I need to walk less. I've been walking like not on purpose, but I've just been up and moving around. The other day I got 20,000 steps in one day. And I was like, I think that's too many steps. Like how,
I pretty regularly get 5,000 to 10,000 steps just at my office.
Yeah, I feel like that's a normal amount.
Yeah.
I got 20,000 pacing back and forth in my kitchen chatting on Discord.
Nice.
That's my feet hurt. I'm tired and I'm old. Oh, when does it get better, Saturn? Does it get better?
I'll let you know.
Ah, shit. That's not good. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.